Starting.
We're talking to Ms. CWyatt-Morley3, who is the founder and executive director of a program called WOMEN and AIDS. And of course, Ms. Wyatt-Morley, before we had our first commercial break, we promised that we would give you an opportunity to talk about some other aspects. And we also know that you are the author of a book and the subject of videotapes and other things dealing with this disease. And let's have you during this segment to talk about the book and some of the impacts that you think that the book and the cassette tape and other things are having in what you're doing with this disease.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, I am author of AIDS Memoir, Journal of an HIV Positive Mother. And the way the book came to be is when I was first diagnosed, I was completely devastated, totally taken aback, as I said earlier. I began to write because in my mind, the only thing that I felt that I was going to be able to leave my children, again, my youngest was 9 years old, would be writings. So I wrote what I called letters to my children, and I wrote and wrote and wrote because I wanted my children to understand my morals, because I thought that I was going to die within 6 months. I thought that I was going to be dead and leave my children motherless. So I began to write. I wanted them to understand my morals. I wanted them to understand my principles, and moreover, I felt it extremely important that they understand life inside of HIV, what exactly it is to be inside of my skin, a person living with a disease. Again, they were very young, and we took our time in telling them. They were not informed right away. So over the course of time, letters to my children began, you know, this large stack of papers began to grow and grow and grow. And a friend of mine, I eventually let a friend of mine read them, and she said to me, Catherine, you have to allow other people to read what is really going on in the skin of an African-American female living with this disease. And lo and behold, AIDS Memoir, Journal of an HIV Positive Mother was created.
And of course, you're having quite a bit of success, so we understand with that.
Yes, a wonderful book. It is all over the world. As a matter of fact, Women on Maintaining Education and Nutrition is using it as one of its major primary things that we give as outreach material in the Nashville community. We give the book to individuals because we find that when we're out on the street doing outreach, of which we do a lot of outreach, in North Nashville and East Nashville and West Nashville. But when we're out in the street doing outreach, giving out pamphlets and giving out brochures and giving out information, the book itself has just been such a valuable tool. And people are very pleased in receiving a book for free. And not only that, they get to see an African-American female who is an author and who has authored a book and is willing to give it to them at no cost to them. And so it's making a tremendous impact, and I'm very, very proud of it.
You know, I think you've mentioned this whole fact of denial especially within the African-American community in reference to this disease. Why don't you talk about that in terms of the impact that this disease is having upon the life of individuals? You know, we know oftentimes that persons will be very healthy and up and around, and then all of a sudden they simply disappear, and we never know exactly what happened to them, and then we get information in reference to the tremendous statistical information about this, and then we don't know, I mean, what can we do in order to reach these individuals who are simply shutting off and closing up when they find that they have this disease? Because you've got courage. We've talked to a number of other persons who had the same kind of courage that you have, but a large number of folks are not willing to come out and deal with this, and perhaps because of that, it sort of undermines their own health, their own ability to fight it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, there is tremendous denial, tremendous rejection within the African-American community. I personally experienced the rejection and the denial in my own family. It is a stigma that still remains, that is associated with this disease within the African-American community. And many women, especially because we are caregivers, we tend to take care of everyone around us. We are the mothers, we are the sisters, we are the aunts, and we, you know, we take care of everyone. And those of us that are living with this disease, we're also caregivers, and we care for everyone else before we take time to care for ourselves. And a lot of African American females are going to the doctor in late stage disease where they have developed, one of the things that happens to women, not just African American women, but women with this disease is chronic and ongoing vaginal yeast infections. Well, we show up at the doctors in late stage, so not only are we showing up in late stages of the disease and having to address those issues, but we're also having to address the other issues, the other opportunistic infections associated with the disease. We are dying rapidly. Make no mistake, the meds are out there, and I recommend the meds for any and all individuals that need them. I have fought in Washington, D.C., marched on Washington, D.C., and had dedicated 4.5 years of my life to the AIDS Clinical Trials Executive Committee in Washington, D.C., trying to fight for equal access to drugs and equal access for women to be a part of clinical trials. But the denial within the African American community is still there, the stigma is still there, and we as a people need to pull together. And when I say we as a people, I also mean people in the church. We need to pull together and infiltrate our churches and infiltrate the high schools and infiltrate these areas and start as a people discussing HIV and AIDS, because that is the way we stop the spread of this disease. That is exactly how we stop the spread of this disease.
It's education. What you're saying is education.
Absolutely.
It's education.
Absolutely. And if we as a people would educate ourselves, then we would dispel some of the myths. We would eliminate the stigma, and then we could get down to the issues of how to deal with the disease for those that are living with the disease, and then also reduce rates of infection within the African American community. And so it would be a win-win for everyone. But again, we have to get out of this denial that we're in. Oh no, that's not my child. Oh no, I don't believe that. Oh no, you'll be okay. That mindset, we've got to change mindsets. We've got to change behaviors so we can grow beyond the epidemic proportions that we now are currently living in.
Very good. You know, we're getting ready for our second commercial break here, Ms. Wyatt-Morley. And when we come back, we want you to sort of summarize during the last segment that we have some of the things that you believe could assist you in the organization that you have in terms of reaching more people. Now, certainly we know that the book plays a very, very significant role, and as you've indicated that it's worldwide and being sold everywhere now and being given away everywhere now, but we know that it is not free in the sense that you might be giving it away, but you also need additional support. And so when we come back following this commercial break, we want you to deal with that. And we'll be back with our audience following this short commercial break. To Ms. Catherine